go yet again, guys, for one of the most popular series on our channel. Well, hopefully from you guys, and we love it as well. Agree or disagree? The one where we take you guys' statements from our various social media accounts and decide what we think. I love Formula One. I love people can have opinions about things, and we're going to give you our opinion, on what you guys say. So, of course, we put a post out on Twitter, on Facebook, on our different social media accounts almost every week. And then, yeah, you can just let loose in the comment section. Let us know what you think. And this is the episode where me and Jordan react to them and say, do we agree or disagree with some of your guys' statements? And of course, every week we get stonkers. Every week you never disappoint us. Thank you very much for everyone who sent them in. And today we have another 6 incredible statements. So, John, let's start off with our first statement for a new edition of Agree or Disagree.
Let's start it. So, the first one comes in from Uzer once again. He likes his opinions, does he? I think this is like his fourth opinion on this series so far. So, yeah. He's very controversial, I know that, so he's a good lad, Uzer, as well. He says, the 2009 to 2016 rear wings, talk about rear wings today, are the ugliest rear wings in F1 history and completely ruined the look of the cars. So, something I don't think we've discussed on Agree or Disagree so far, which is, of course, the aerodynamics of the actual cars themselves. We've discussed how bad they are in terms of overtaking, but... not the looks of the... let's have a thing. I'm going to actually say... agree. I'm going to agree with this one.
We agreed a lot, me and Jordan, on the last episode. I meant to say that as well.
I think we did.
Hopefully we can get an episode where we don't agree. You know, like, if I say agree, John says disagree. If he says agree, I say disagree, things like that. But, yes, I'm going to have to side with you, Jordan, on this one and say that User, I agree, and it did look ugly.
It did as well. I'm not going to go in depth as to why, like, really analyse the wings and stuff like that, because I'm not anyone who knows aerodynamics or anything else. But, to be fair, I didn't give this much thought at the time. I just, like... To me, that was just a Formula 1 car. I'd been a fan since 2010, and that's all I'd known. I'd seen the previous rear wings in the 90s and obviously the noughties as well, and when they changed it from the regs from 08 to 09, you know, the cars looked a bit more smarter and taller and thinner and stuff, you know, taking away all them aeros things that they had on the side pods and stuff like that. But not until 2017 when they changed the regs again, and you had the almost like a squashed car, like the wings were lower and wider, the tyres were wider, the front wing was wider, and it looked like a race car. Look-wise, it was brilliant. Race-wise, it wasn't a good decision, but hey, that's the past. And when I look back at the older cars, I just went, oh, I did not like them tall, thin rear wings. I don't think they made the car look any uglier than it. Well, just depends what era it's from. From 2014, doesn't matter what kind. If you had a nice rear wing on the Caterham or the Lotus, it's still going to look bad anyway. So a rear wing was never going to help them cars. But looking back at it now, for me, I'm not a fan anymore of what they used to look like, and I'm more of a fan of what they are now. And going forward, they look a bit. Obviously, the new cars, the 2022 kind of rear wing specs. They will take some getting used to. I mean, I do prefer the ones that they've got now, but they don't enhance good racing. So if it means changing it, and the cars look a bit uglier than what they do now, but it produces good racing, then I'm all for it at the end of the day. I'm down for racing. It can look good, but if it races bad, then what's the point? We want good looking cars in good looking racing, but at the moment we don't have either, because of what's going on at the moment. But hopefully when we get racing back again, I think obviously rear wings look nice in today's world. But nope, I agree. The previous wings, not very nice in my opinion. Lyle, you also said agree as well. What's your reasons why?
Well, firstly, I'm going to chuck a statement at you guys in the comment section below. Please let me know if you agree or disagree with this statement. And this one is that the 2017 cars were the sexiest cars in the 21st century. Like, I don't want to say ever, but we are going almost to ever. Definitely in my lifetime, definitely in Jordan's, definitely what we've ever seen. I mean, honestly, Jordan, they looked incredible.
Some did, right, because of the not the rear wings, the shark fins. The Toro Rosso and the Ferrari, they had a curve in their shark fin. That looked brilliant. Looks awesome. Yeah. But the squared ones that the Red Bull had, the McLaren had, I didn't like it. That that changed the whole dynamic look of the car. The front of the cars is. The rear of the cars, some were good, some were awful. Some weren't that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that, yeah. I mean, just any of them. I mean, the Ferrari was one of my favourites that year. Absolutely incredible from them. The colour scheme, everything, and obviously the shark fin worked incredible. That year also was, I mean, the cars looked good, but I think also was just the change and the improvement from 2016. I mean, yeah, the 2016 cars were good. Obviously, it really was a balance of overtaking and things like that, and obviously produced a very good season. But that season, it was like the cars just looked not very good. Yeah, as Jordan said there, the tall, the stiff, the smaller, the just not right. The evolution of Formula 1 wasn't right, and it's gone through some really rocky times in the olden days. Of course, as Jordan said there, 2008 McLaren, for example, obviously the biggest one you can remember, had all these aero parts on. It was like, that's really complicated. And it's almost like whoever heard that in the design briefing said, I hear you, I'm going to 150 billion% change that, because again, the Brawn, for example, the car that always springs to mind when you talk about 2009, that was completely shredded of anything. It was almost like a unibody. It was like an Apple computer. It was one body, one chassis, and it was clean. It was clean cut. It looked good. But again, the Brawn, it was quite stiff. It was quite stand-uppy, and you had the big rear wing. And then after that, it changed into the evolution of the big boxy cars, the big front rings. Wings. Sorry, I'll start again. The front noses, that's what I mean. The noses was high up, and then it had this big drop down to the wings, looked really odd. It wasn't great for Formula 1, because we imagine Formula 1 as these very compact, stick to the ground kind of really cool things. And also as well, as technology changes, we do look for these cool kind of almost car porn kind of cars, and there really were some stonkers when they changed regulation in 2017. The Halo, it can also actually make the cars look a little bit better, again just because of the Halo's design. I think when it first came in, or the talks were around it, we were imagining this big thing where it was just going to be a straight vertical stick, on in front of the driver, and this big hula hoop at the top. But then what was designed was this kind of bend, and then a hula hoop which just went over the driver's helmet. It looked really, really cool, really slick, really just awesome, really. Yeah. And again, the 2022 car looks very futuristic. It looks small, it looks sleek, it looks like the way that the wind would actually travel over the car, picking up and then going over kind of in this semicircle way. It was cool. To say that they looked ugly, I'm going to say yes. But actually, when Uzair wrote this on Twitter, a lot of people that commented underneath were saying about the overtaking, about the aerodynamics. Of course, they made it to challenge the aerodynamics, the balance between the clear air and the dirty air kind of thing, to make overtaking easier, but in the same time harder, and to make a big benefit on DRS, which of course is something that was brought in. I think it's about a decade, or it's just less than a decade old now. Again, was brought in with the evolution of those higher wings. I think in 2009 it was brought in. So again, it might have been brought into aid DRS, but I am happy that they've changed it back into what we have right now. And of course, as I just said there, 2016 pengers out. I absolutely loved them. So there we go. Ugly, I agree. A bit like Jordan, and I'm joking. So the next comment, the next opinion comes in on Twitter, and it comes in from Amna. Sound like someone from the North Sea said that.
Amna.
And he says, I think Daniel Kvyat is one of the most. No, sorry, not one of the most. I'll start that again. I think Daniel Kvyat is the most underrated driver on the grid. And to that, I am going to say the most underrated
driver on the grid.
It's a hard one. I mean, I could say I agree with that. The most. But do you know what? For the just to spice this up, I'm going to say agree.
I'm going to go opposite with you, Lyle. I'm going to disagree.
Yes. Finally have an opposite.
Why not?
I want you to do that. I'm not just saying that to disagree with John, but I was a Daniel Kvyat fan when he was at Red Bull. I did really like him. He had that strength about him. We've had some good Russian drivers in the past. Vitaly Petrov was obviously one of the drivers who had just left a few years before Daniel Kvyat came around. really good progression through the Red Bull Junior program, great season with Toro Rosso, and it obviously proved enough to go to Red Bull Racing, replacing the 4-time world champion of Sebastian Vettel when he went to Ferrari. So again, they must have seen something very, very special in him. His road through Red Bull and then back to Toro Rosso and then out the door was very, very painful. It was horrible. To be honest, I actually feel for Danny. I'm sure a lot of people do. It was painful. It was hard. For example, even in Spain 2016, you could see he was getting choked up, and you could see the kind of the sadness in his eyes. Not because he's being replaced at Red Bull by someone who might be a little bit better, but we didn't know at that point. Just someone who was getting a new experience. I think it was what Danny felt, in my opinion, was the distrust. Red Bull had lost trust in him. They'd lost faith in him. They didn't really like him at the end of the day. They were like, right, there we go, Danny, we've given you 4 races, you haven't improved, but, there we go, you can have him Toro Rosso. And then Toro Rosso went, we don't want him. Like, what are we going to do with him? So, and then he was out of Formula 1. Had one season where he was out of Formula 1 where it must have been pretty much torture. Kind of the feeling that, you had a lot more to give in Formula 1. He was still a young guy. I don't know what his actual age is, but he was obviously definitely young enough and obviously hungry enough. He'd been through the ranks. He'd spent all of his life in the Red Bull Junior program. And then now he'd been through, and then now out of the Red Bull Junior program, he had nothing left. To get another chance to go back to Toro Rosso was his only lifeline, and one that he needed to grab with 120 billion% of everything that he had. And every single time in the car, he had even more to prove than everyone else on that grid. Not because he was not as good as them, he definitely was. If anything, he might have been better than most of them on the grid because he had more experience. But in his opinion, he was probably like, I need to do better every single race. I need to show that I'm better than my teammate, Alexander Albon, and of course Pierre Gasly, the second part of the season, because I need to prove that I am good enough to stay in Formula 1. And I think that has pushed him to be stronger. In every race I see Danny Kvyat, because of that pressure, because of that, the feeling. I know we don't try to talk about it enough. We try to see the new Danny Kvyat, but we must all be thinking of the 2016 demoted from Red Bull, then demoted out of Formula 1, the bad experience, the bad feeling. And I think that spurred him on to be a better driver. And again, because of the trading places, and of course we had a second trading place with Gasly and Albon, Red Bull overlooked Kvyat again then. I do feel like Kvyat is looked over a lot. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, I do feel like he is underrated. That's the thing though, the most underrated, it's possibility. It's a pin in that. And again, I think this year, being at AlphaTauri, brand new team, most likely the leader of the team. I mean, Pierre Gasly, is a very good driver. They're both on the fight to Red Bull, but Danny Kvyat, I would say, is the team leader at AlphaTauri. I think he's an underrated driver. I think that pressure has spurred him on to do a lot better. There's pressure, as we said before, just imagine if he ever gets back to Red Bull racing. The amount of, what he will be able to show will be incredible. That story, that road will be amazing. And I'll tell you what though, right? It's almost like if you want to be a Danny Kvyat fan, get on the train now, because if he ever does get back to Red Bull, that will be an incredible story. He could have one of the best Formula 1 careers ever if this happens. Kick dive Red Bull for Max Verstappen. Okay, yes, of course, he has done well, but it was always a gamble with him. And then, through all of the doubt, through all of what happened to Danny Kvyat, he then got back to Red Bull, or maybe he goes a different route, but if he beats Red Bull, that also will be a good story in itself, to prove that he doesn't need them. He was a good driver on his own, and it was bad what actually happened to him. I'll say for all that, I do think that he is very underrated. To say he's the most, it's a gamble, but I'm going to leave it there and say that that's why he is underrated. Jordan, so you finally disagree with us, thankfully, to make this episode spicy. Why do you think he is not the most underrated driver in F1?
I don't think he's a bad driver in any shape or form. Like I've always said for ages that you was talking there, Lyle, about how he was dropped from Red Bull. I always think he was wrongly dismissed from Red Bull. But at the same time, I think when you've got a young hotshot like Verstappen coming through the ranks and probably dollar bills waving in your face, coming from a certain Jos Verstappen, then you're going to take him. Is Max better than Kvyat? In my opinion, yes, but that's not what we're discussing here. So, like I said, wrongly dropped from Red Bull, went back to Toro Rosso. I don't think they went as far as Red Bull disliked him or in any shape or form. But like I said, when you've got a young kind of once in a generation driver in your ranks, you want to put him in that car ASAP. But for me, the most underrated driver on that grid is Sergio Perez. that's the only reason why I'm disagreeing with that. Not to have a dig at Daniel Kvyat or any other driver for that matter. I think for me, Perez is probably a better driver and deserves probably a seat at the top team. Yes, he went to McLaren, I know that, but they had a bad season and Perez didn't do that bad. He had one season. Is that enough? No. McLaren were in a really bad way. Button had a bad season. Did he get dropped? No. For me, they should have kept Perez on. Then again, it wouldn't have got any better. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise that he did leave McLaren. But no, I think Daniel Kvyat, like, of course he's a good driver. Is he worthy of Red Bull drive? Yeah, of course he is, in my opinion. Will he go back there? Probably not. I think his days as Red Bull driver are gone, unless Verstappen shocks the team and goes somewhere else and Albon isn't good enough anymore for whatever reason. Then there could be a last minute call to draft him in. I think it was overlooked when they replaced Gasly with Albon because of Kvyat had his chance. He'd been there and they wanted to give it a chance with Albon, who hadn't been there before. But at the time it didn't make a lot of sense. But now Albon had proven his worth and for me deserves a seat. But you know, like I said, Kvyat had a good season and he was dropped no matter what. He didn't do anything, in my eyes, he didn't do anything wrong. You know, you could say, oh, but in Russia, but that's only one incident. So that for me is it's not enough for me to warrant a dismissal. But hey, but no, I think for me, as like I said earlier, Sergio Perez is for me the most underrated driver on the grid. Of course, people may disagree with that, but that's the whole point of this series: agree or disagree. So let us know who you think is the most underrated driver in Formula One today in the comment section below. So coming on to the next opinion, comes in from Liam Talks F1. Nice guy, Liam, actually. I've spoken to him a couple of times. He says, Kamui Kobayashi, remember that name, guys? Wow, blast from the past. Kamui Kobayashi was one of the best drivers of the 2010s, not to get a great result. Think Japan 2010 is heavily underrated. Kobayashi, yes, he was a very likeable character, wasn't he, Kobayashi? He didn't do anything wrong. He had some really good drives. He was with Sauber throughout the duration of his career. He had a brief stint at Toyota. I think it was the end of 2009, towards the end of 2009, he had a brief stint. And then he had it with Sauber, then he came back, he had a year out in 2013, came back in with Caterham for 2014. Was one of the best drivers in 2010. I'm going to say agree with that one, yeah.
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, if we're just talking about Japanese drivers, of course he obviously was one of the best. But if it was one of the best of the 2010s, I'm gonna say disagree. Only for the fact of getting no more, but only for the fact that you could say that he has had his time. And it's not like he had like less than time. He had his time in Formula 1 to show what he had, and he had some decent results in there. But yes, I'm going to lock in disagree.
Well, I'm going to say agree because, at the time when he came into Formula 1, I didn't know much about who Kobayashi was. But when you read up, what he did at Toyota for that brief stint, people were like, "Oh, this guy's pretty quick." He went off to Sauber, Sauber were never a top team, were they? They were never that team to challenge for podiums, although. Once upon a time, but he said the 2010 Japan. I don't know if he means 2012 Japan, because that for me was it could be a better drive, but he got a podium in Japan 2012, so I don't know if it means 2012 or 2010, because I can't remember the Japan 2010, but Japan 2012, he was overtaking everyone at that hairpin, now named the Kobayashi hairpin, because just everyone, just didn't matter who it was, he was going for it, and he pulled off some brilliant moves, and that showcased how good Kobayashi was, in terms of overtaking, in terms of braking and stuff like that. So, yeah, he had some really good drives. He was on par with Perez for the majority of his stint. Perez was a really good driver. Like I said, in my opinion, underrated. So, he proved that he was worthy of the drive. He was kicked out, unfortunately. Reasons, I don't know. Again, guys, enlighten me. I don't know if it was... I'd imagine he was dropped for... Who was 2013? So it was Gutierrez and... Hulkenberg in 13, wasn't it? Suttil was at Force India still. And then 14, Suttil came in for Sauber as well, alongside Gutierrez. So he was wrong. I think was he wrongly dropped? Yeah, I think he probably was. Did his money run out? Maybe. I think Gutierrez brought money, which was a big boost for Sauber, who were going through some financial troubles. Hulkenberg as well. I think a lot of the money went to Hulkenberg because I think he was a high-paid driver, and I think he brought in a couple of dollars as well. But I think it could have been Hulkenberg and Kobayashi for that seat in 2013, but I could be totally wrong with this. He could have fallen out with Sauber or whatever, but I was surprised that he wasn't there. And then obviously he came back in 2014, and I mean, you could put bloody Lewis Hamilton in that Caterham, and he would have got nothing out of that car, nothing. So he was doomed from the word go when he signed for Caterham at the end of the day. But I thought Kobayashi, he could have been one of those drivers challenging for podiums week in, week out. He was good enough, given he had the right car. If he was in like a 2014 Williams or a 2013 Mercedes, let's say, for example, he could have done bits in those cars. But again, we'll never know to this day. It's just speculation and going off what we saw in previous seasons. But no, I think for me, he was absolutely one of the best drivers of the 2010s. I would probably say underrated as well. One of them underrated drivers. And yeah, there's nothing much more to say on that. Lyle, you disagree with that. You disagree. Explain why.
To be honest, I don't know too much about Kamui. I mean, I can't bluff my way through it. I just remember 2012. I mean, in terms of seasons for Sauber, they had an incredible season. Kobayashi and Perez, they both did really well for that team. Of course, Perez running away with it. Second place Malaysia almost could have taken the win. But even Kobayashi, as Jordan said there, his podium in Japan, very emotional as well. The Sauber people, the Honda people as well, I don't know if it was sponsorship in Kamui or something like that, but it was obviously a very moving race for obviously Kamui, for Sauber, for the people that were involved in the race, and of course the Japanese fans who get a lot behind their drivers. In terms of the Japanese drivers, I remember actually the one that I kind of know a little bit more about, or the one that I remember listening to is what's it called? Beyond
Fry
the
Grid.
I remember I was listening to that actually when I was travelling down to London. It was actually really good. It was Takuma Sato, and it was just kind of his insight into his career. A lot of the fighting that he went through, to get to Suzuka, to perform in Formula One. And again, he wasn't given as much time as he thought, and he was a little bit underrated as well.
Indy 500 winner.
And the only thing I can say about Kamui is, he had a good time in Formula One. He had some good times with some good teams. The only thing I can say as well is that in 2013, I agree with Jordan, maybe he shouldn't have been dropped. The only way I can say that is because Sergio Perez, he went up a mile, he went to McLaren. Of course, McLaren after 2012 are an incredible team, replacing Lewis Hamilton. I don't know if it means loads, but obviously replacing whoever was your predecessor, a bit like what we were saying about Fiat with Vettel, is massive. So he was replacing Hamilton, going off to McLaren, and obviously Kobayashi was going the wrong way. Maybe that wasn't fair, especially after a good race that he'd had. I don't know about how much money he brought in or sponsorship or anything like that. But I do think that he had a good run in Formula 1. I would say a little bit underrated, but I wouldn't say that he was one of the best drivers in 2010. But as I say, from my opinion, that's just only because I don't really know too much about him. But I thought I would disagree as well, shake up the episode a little bit. But yeah, no, I mean, I remember Kamui being in, I remember 2012 being a great season. I just don't think he was one of the best drivers. In the 2010s, there was a lot more experience on that grid, and actually in the early 2010s, we were seeing a lot of drivers who were in the grid who were being dropped for obviously a lot more skill than they had. For example, Nick Heidfeld. I mean, I know he'd been in Formula 1 for a number of years before that, but again, I thought he had a lot more experience, a lot more talent, and he should have maybe stayed in Formula 1 a little bit longer. Alongside Petrov as well, other people like that. But yeah, no, I thought Kamui did okay, but let's say not the best driver in 2010 and in the early 2010s for me. So the next one that we've got coming in is from Jack Milton, the true Kronos. He's had opinions on here before. He comes in with a real stonker, and it is about Ferrari, which I believe his first one was as well last week. And he says Ferrari are their own worst enemies. They assign world-class drivers, in brackets, for example, Alonso, Raikkonen and Vettel, but still haven't won a championship in over a decade through poor cars and strategies. And he said, but I'm going to change it to and simply being idiotic. So basically, Ferrari are they're just destroying everything. It's almost like having a little child in the house. You buy him all these nice toys and stuff like that, and then what does he do the next day, or even the next hour, or even before you get home? He destroys it. It's like, I can't have nice things. I'm going to say to that. I mean, maybe not using the little toy analogy, but I'm going to say to that agree.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that one as well.
So the reason, I mean, I guess I kind of had a feeling that we were both going to say agree with that. I'm not saying that they're there They're just destroying everything that they've done. But I remember I think 2018 was a big one for me. And every time they were coming to a pit stop, Ferrari, when Sebastian Vettel was in this fight with Lewis, but the actual fight where, you thought Sebastian could actually take the championship from Lewis, especially in 2017, he had a stomper of a car in that very sexy Ferrari, as I've just been over, but I'm not going to say that again. We actually thought he could do that. There was many Ferrari 1-2s, and every time they went into the pit, I was like, biting my nails, I was like, oh no, they're just going to mess up this pit stop. The strategy isn't going to be great, the pit stops aren't great. And you look at Mercedes, they would do these slick pit stops. I mean, do you remember China, the 1000th race? That is one of the sexiest pit stops ever. I feel like I'm saying sexy a lot in this episode. And Ferrari just weren't. They were the other side of that. Mercedes were doing these slick pit stops, slick strategies, not a problem, not a care in the world. Lewis off in first place, Valtteri in second. Yes, of course they would have team order problems like Valtteri James, Russia 2018, but not as many as Ferrari would. They would have bad pit stops where things would go wrong. Okay, fair enough. That's just that might be human error. It might be what do you call it, like mechanical error. Like a wheel gun might go wrong, for example. In incidents, for example, like with Bahrain, I think it was 2018 with Kimi Raikkonen, he caught one of the team personnel. Of course, incidents like that can happen. It's nobody's fault. It's just an accident. But then strategies, yes, Ferrari's strategists get things wrong. Also team orders as well. We haven't seen it for a few years with people like Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen, but we saw it in the olden days with Fernando Alonso, who he's mentioned there, and Felipe Massa. Remember Hockenheim 2010, one of the biggest ones in the 21st century. Fernando was faster than you. I wish Felipe was. Fernando was faster than you. And of course, then last year, we saw it again with Sebastian and Charles. China and Russia, we saw these problems going around. I'm faster than you. No, I'm faster than you. And the problem, it's almost like Ferrari just couldn't handle it. Mercedes, of course, very much a threat for Ferrari, the people that they want to beat. But really, sometimes it goes in the opposite direction. They're after Ferrari at the front, but they're not really. They're looking so far into the front that they're messing up things that they're doing right now, and they're slipping back into Red Bull's grasp. And again, Red Bull have more of a grasp on, pit stops and strategy and things like that. They have the drivers. Ferrari have the drivers. Ferrari have they have the mentality to do these kind of things. But like we've said in these episodes before, Ferrari are a very old style, old school team. Whereas you can't really bring much to the table that hasn't been said. So Sebastian, for example, signs with the team. He'll be sitting down in 2015. He'll have all these new ideas. And remember, he's just come from a team that is basically built themselves around this German driver. He is king. He is God. He is like the leader of Red Bull, leader and a half of Red Bull Racing. He owns them. He has them wrapped around his finger. And he goes to Ferrari, and it's like, no, Seb, no. We are Ferrari. We do this. It's almost like the archives at the Vatican. They have this massive book of their playbook is massive, and they will never change anything. They won't change because they are Ferrari. They are the prancing horse. They are one of the oldest teams in Formula One. And again, I think it's like that ignorance that comes through when they don't perform. Their strategy goes wrong. What do Mercedes do? They change it. They're constantly changing it throughout the weekend. Bono sometimes is wrong. Toto Wolff sometimes is wrong. Sometimes Lewis is right. He'll actually be driving the car on the track, and he'll say, Bono, I think we should do this. Bono will then go, yeah, do you know what, Lewis? I agree, we'll do this. And then we go, they've won the race. Okay, fair enough, Bono helped, and Toto helped, and the team helped, but Lewis was the one who came up with the idea. But the team adapted it and went, yes, we'll do that. But Ferrari, Sebastian says that, Charles says that, even Kimi said that, and even Fernando said that when he was at the team. And it's like, no, we're going to do it our way. And again, I think that's one of the reasons why. And I do agree that they are the ones who sometimes they're just shooting themselves in the foot. They're doing these mistakes, and it's just down to them. And I completely agree. We've been seeing Ferrari's strategies has been messed up and things like that in the olden days. That's just one of the reasons why they're not mounting a charge to Mercedes like they should do. One day they might get it right, because of course they have done that in the past, like with Michael, the domination. But as I say, we're not seeing that anytime soon, and that might be a massive worry for Charles and Seb this year, and for the future, especially now that they've said Charles Leclerc is going to be their new prodigy for the future. If they want him to be the new Michael, for example, then they're going to have to, I would even say, listen to Charles and listen to some of the things he wants to bring into the team. Because sometimes Mercedes, that's what they do. They ask for the drivers' opinions. They're democratic how they run the team. Ferrari are my way or the highway. We've said that before. I don't know what episode it was, but I remember seeing autocratic and Ferrari in the same sentence, and that's what they are. So Jordan, I completely agree with that statement. Of course, you do as well. I had a feeling you would. I have a feeling a lot of people will out there watching. So what's your reasons why Ferrari are their own worst enemy?
Well, Jack made a really good point there about the whole they've had like drivers like Alonso and Vettel, some really well established, quick former world champion drivers, yet they haven't won a world championship. That's like the thing. You've got to sit back and go, how have Ferrari not won a championship since 2007? How have Mercedes come from basically non-existence, coming into the sport as a midfield team, then all of a sudden total domination and just beating Ferrari left, right and centre, clearly, like absolutely clearly. And it's like, okay, Ferrari, like there is something wrong. There's a missing link between Ferrari and winning. There's something not right, whether that's communication, teamwork, or there's just the right man. The man's not. The boss, in this case Binotto, isn't the man for the job. We thought Oliver Bennett was going to be, Marco Magnacci was he going to be the man? Dominicali, and it just hasn't really worked. And I think it's got a lot worse since De Montezemolo stepped down as Ferrari chairman. He was when he was in charge, he brought in Jean Todt and Schumacher, and they built this brilliant team from like 1996, and then by 2000 or 1999, sorry, they won the constructors, and then obviously in 2000 they start off the domination phase. And once Jean Todt left, Schumacher retired, and whoever just went, Ross Brawn, he was in charge at the time, he went off to Honda. That the whole band disbanded, and Ferrari have never been the same since. They came close in 2008, of course, with Felipe Massa, which is very unlucky. 2010, right? This for me is the biggest. How the hell did Alonso not win that championship? Vettel was miles ahead. Miles behind. Vettel won the championship still somehow. How? I don't get it. Ferrari, Ferrari are the all worst enemies. I mean, 2017, 2018 should have at least been a drivers champion with Sebastian Vettel. Vettel, I've said this before, Vettel has got himself to blame at times, but Ferrari, bad strategy, bad car at times, breaks down. I just don't get it. And Ferrari, for me, look so far away from winning the championship. It's scary. It really, really is. And you've just got to question, where do you put the blame at? Where is the blame? And my answer is, I don't know. I wish I knew, but I don't know. And I'm not like a big Ferrari passionate fan, but you do want to see not just Mercedes winning all the time, and you want to see Ferrari win a championship as well. Because that's a scary thing, right? That ever since I've followed Formula 1 properly, I've never seen Ferrari win a championship. Which, for some older fans, is like, what? You've never seen Ferrari win a championship? And it's like, that when you put it like that, that's actually pretty weird. And it is. And I mean, when I seen the stat, like, Vettel's won 14 races at Ferrari, and I'm like, he's been there since 2015. 14 wins. I mean,
I've never heard anyone say that to me, Jordan. So that was like, wow, I've never heard that. Wow.
It's like when you put the numbers down, you go only 14. Yet Mercedes have probably achieved that in like 2 seasons, and Vettel's been there since 2015. What, that's 6 seasons? And it's like, jeez Louise. And I think another one as well. If you like the amount of 1-2s that Ferrari have had since the World Championship in 07, like Mercedes have like done that in like 2 seasons, and Ferrari have done it in like a space of 10 years or 12 years or whatever. And it's like the stats are horribly against Ferrari. Something needs to change if they want to get back winning world championships. For me, it's not going to be 2020. I know that for a fact, because the car looks bleak. It looks. Then again, there could be sandbagging, so it could be wrong, but. Just from what I'm hearing and the mood around Ferrari, Vettel's leaving, he doesn't want to be there, and it's a bad atmosphere for Ferrari. It really, really is. So the last one from me, my last opinion. Well, not my last opinion, other people's opinions, by the way, before you start.
The last ever. Oh my God, Jordan's leaving you from the debate show.
Oh my God, OMG. Comes in from Colin Rowland Mason. Now, Colin sent his in last week. So just because you might not have heard yours this week, there's always that chance yours could be in next week's episode. And he says, all tarmac runoffs should be replaced by gravel or grass. Now, Formula 1 is a big safety thing at the moment. Obviously, with the introduction of the halo, the different monocoque chassis and stuff like that, and track safety as well. A lot of the grass and gravel runoffs have been replaced with tarmac for safety reasons. What should be replaced? Now, I'm on the fence. I really am on the fence with this one. And I'm like, I'm gonna say agree.
Well,
but I'm not. I'll explain why in a minute. Because I'm not. I want to say agree, but I'll explain why.
I don't think we've shaken it up too much this episode, Jordan. The last one better be a corker. I'm going to say agree. I'm going to say agree as well. But unlike Jordan, I'm not on the fence. And again, I'll tell you in a little bit.
Well, firstly, the reason why I'm on the fence is because I'll explain what he means. So he said take away tarmac and replace it with gravel or grass. Yes. For this, because if a car goes off track and makes a mistake, he's in the gravel, he's beached, his race is finished. That is exciting to watch because you don't. It's almost like what I've said earlier about Monaco. It's like Monaco. People have said, "Oh, it's difficult to overtake Monaco. It's not good racing." Yeah, but if you make one little mistake in Monaco, that's you finished. There's no runoffs. There's nothing. You can't recover. That's your race finished. And that's it's on the edge of your seat stuff. It's like, oh, who is anyone going to spin? Is anyone going to crash? Is anyone going to go for an ambitious overtake? And when you introduce gravel traps in grass, it adds that element of, again, almost Monaco-esque. Like, obviously, not all the time gravel will end your race. You can always like gain that momentum, and about like what Hamilton did in Germany when you went off the tarmac into the gravel, bounced off the wall, then came back onto the track. We've seen it before where drivers went onto the gravel and luckily they came back out. But most of the times they haven't. For that reason alone, it's like one little mistake, you're in the gravel and that's you finished. And if it's raining and you're on the grass, one little touch of the grass and you're spinning, excitement. But why I'm on the fence is because the reason why there is no gravel or or tarmac, well, because of one, that teams don't want to have to, well, no points or anything like that. So obviously no points means no points in the constructors, which means they'll get less money in the standings. But mostly it's down to safety. So if a car goes off track and it spins or whatever, or like it hits something, let's say like hits at a curb and it bounces up, it's going to dig into the gravel. Or even if it's a slide and all of a sudden little dip in the gravel and boosh, the car's over and it rolls. Now, Formula 1 cars are very, very safe these days, like very safe. Not the safest of the safe. So there is that element of driver could get hurt, which you don't want to see, but you don't know what is in the driver's way for it could be a wrong place, wrong time situation all over again, like we've seen in the past. And for that reason, that's why I'm a bit like it could lead to a more serious accident than what could have been if tarmac was there or whatever and all that. So that's why I'm a bit like I've got the safety concern in my mind, but on a racing aspect, I would like to see gravel and grass make a return. Lyle, you said obviously I've said I was on the fence. You're not on the fence. You're so far away from the fence you can't see the fence.
My fence isn't even on the track. Well, I mean, again, John, like I'm thinking about safety, but my opinion is that, I mean, unfortunately, crashes are like 6 and 2 3s. Yes, we can. Gravel has created some big impact in terms of rolling the car. Things that, I mean, obviously, if you remember Danny Kvyat when he was driving for Red Bull Racing in 2015 in Suzuka, he actually barrel rolled the car going uphill in gravel, but then on other sides, as John said there, cars can get beached as well. If you are looking at run-off areas, again, I'm thinking about Suzuka, one of my favourite circuits ever. I know I said favourite circuits ever there, just favourite circuits. You look at somewhere like that, you run off somewhere, and you might be going fast, but it will decelerate you so fast because the gravel just gets in the car, it digs you in. I remember actually when we were doing a walk around Silverstone, me and Jordan, and I remember we were talking, and I wasn't watching where I was going, and he didn't push me off the track. I actually went off the track, and I stood into a gravel trap. I'm not kidding you, and my foot just went all the way, like quite a long way down. I was like, that is how deep a gravel trap is. I'm like, if a car goes in that, it's going to get stuck. And yes, of course, yes, your race can get finished. For example, at Silverstone, and actually this is where the point was. It was in Maggots and Beckett's. Of course, right, left, left, right, left. And yes, of course, if you dip a wheel off that, you're going to go off. And yes, it might be a little bit unfair that you can't return or anything. But in that sense, and again, if you remember a few years ago, there was actually a crash in there between the two Toro Rossos, including Danny Kvyat, who I've now mentioned 3 times in this video. In that instance, of course, yes, it can stop a crash, and of course it is there for safety, and that is the whole reason. Another one as well is, as I've just said there, Suzuka. What makes it a good track, as well as it's all winding, it's a figure 8, and it's amazing in front of the Japanese fans, which is incredible, but is the fact that it is the track. Yes, you have a little strip of the curb, and then it's grass and it's gravel, and basically that is it. I'm not saying that tracks like Paul Ricard, where you know that it's just tarmac and you can run off. I'm not saying drivers like that because they know that they can, as in like that's an easy, cheeky way of getting past them. But it just means that though, like if you do run wide, it doesn't matter. Like in Paul Ricard in the first corner, I've forgotten who it was, but it was last year. Like people bounce off each other and there's no worries. You bounce off each other. A car goes around the side, and David Croft will say, "Oh, look, someone's gone around the side." Wowee though, he's gone massively around the side. He's gone like 100 meters off them. And if any other track in Formula 1 happened like that, well, firstly in Singapore and in Monaco, that would not happen. But secondly, if that happened to any other track, like Suzuka or Silverstone or anything like that, Spa or even Monza, he would be gone. There would be no chance for him to return after that. It makes driving more entertaining, and also as well for Formula 1 fans, mainly the ones getting into Formula 1, but obviously we would also like to see it. We always try to reduce the car wins kind of thing. We always try to like reduce it where the driver has more control. And yes, I feel like these tracks where we have less tarmac, the driver is more in control. Why is that? Again, it goes back to that Monaco thing. The driver doesn't want to put it in the wall. He doesn't want to put it in the gravel. He doesn't want to put it on the grass. And I think that's great. I'd probably say grass over gravel, because of course grass doesn't mean that you are out straight away. But if you put a wheel to it, yes, of course you can spin. It can alter the race. It isn't 100% safe, but obviously it doesn't kind of lead to any problems. I just think it looks better, and also as well, I mean, like, of course we are talking about tracks like Paul Ricard, and yes, of course it does affect the driving, because we just think like, as I've just said there, if a driver crashes, if a driver bounces off, whatever, he's going to return. Yes, he might have a penalty. It probably will. Yes, it'll be looked at by the stewards. Yes, of course, he is cutting the corner, or he might have his time deleted, for example, something that we haven't seen actually happen in quite a few years in Formula 1, which is weird. I think it was 2017 it was first introduced, and this was going to be all the rage, and it hasn't happened in ages. But yes, that's just the realism of it. Paul Ricard, you cut the corner, and that's it. And also, I am saying it from a fact of, in F1 race lobbies, if we raced on a Paul Ricard that had gravel on it, people wouldn't cut the corners with it. So that's what I'm saying I would like to see, but I completely agree with that statement. So anyway, moving on to my final statement, the final statement of this episode. Obviously guys, you've been creating some amazing ones, and like John just read out there, if yours isn't read in one episode, if yours isn't read out this episode, it might be in the future. My last one comes, actually the biggest one, the one I've been excited to talk about, and the title of this episode comes in from BMPHF1, and he says, Lewis Hamilton will have 10 world championships by the time his career is over. Lewis is on 6 at the moment, going for 7. But he's going to end, but 7 and 8 isn't enough for him. He is going to go for 10. And 10? I am going to, again, it's a very much on the fence. I have two opinions. I do believe Lewis Hamilton is going to go a long way. But 10, and it's a very specific 10 as well, I'm going to say, do you know what? I'm going to ruffle feathers, and I'm going to say agree.
Oh, I'm going to disagree.
I'm going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm going to say agree. Yes, I'm just going to, Twitter, have your way. Let's hear why this is all wrong. But then Max Verstappen will become 16-time world champion. I don't know. All I'm going to say to that is, though, a little bit like the Danny Kvyat one, I'm gonna maybe agree and disagree, if that makes sense. The 10, possibly not. That is a lot. We look at people like Valentino Rossi in MotoGP. He's got 9. I think it is it 9? Yeah, 9. It's an absolutely incredible number. It might be a lot for Lewis Hamilton to get, but I do believe that he's going to go further than 7. Basically, just because he looks like someone who just isn't ready to leave Formula 1 anytime soon. His domination, I feel, it might not go hand in hand. He might not dominate in 2020. He might not dominate in 2021. He probably isn't, and he probably is going to have a harder time winning the World Championships than he has in the past. And of course, as Formula 1 fans, we would all love that because Lewis has more of a challenge. But the thing that I can't see Lewis doing anytime soon is retiring. Like, not at all. And I just can't see him doing that. He will always be a title contender. He will always be in the fight. And do you know what? I could even see Lewis winning not his next, but maybe like number 8, number 9 in 27, 28, 29, possibly even 2030. It's maybe a bit too far, but you know what I mean though, like a massive gap between all these fighting with Verstappen and fighting with Leclerc and Bottas, and then possibly George Russell if he takes Bottas' seat, or Ocon, or the new phases. I could see that happening. But what I can't see is Lewis Hamilton leaving Formula 1 anytime soon. And I definitely can't see Lewis Hamilton losing any of this winning mentality, this winning streak, this fire, this ferociousness that he has. He'll beat Michael Schumacher's record. Yes, he will. It might not make him the greatest of all time, for example. That will, of course, even if he is 10-time world champion and he's demolished Michael's records, it still won't mean that. Again, it'll be your opinion, and obviously we'll be talking about this in depth for the next few years, I imagine. But yes, I think that he will go a long way, and there's no end to Lewis Hamilton's, not domination, but the pursuit of his domination anytime soon. It might not be 10, Jordan, but I'm saying that Lewis is in here for the long run. I'm going to say it's over 7. It could be 8, could be 9, could be 11, but I'm definitely saying that Lewis is here to stay, and that's why I'm going to say agree. So Jordan, you disagreed with that statement. Why? Lewis Hamilton on the prime of his life, going for 7, but not 10 though. Why is that?
Because I don't think he'll be here long enough to get the 10. You're saying that he'll go on
I do.
Be here in the long run. I think what he'll do is that he'll sign this new 2-year deal, and then that'll be it. I think he'll retire after that deal's expired. He wants to go for the records because he knows how close he is to going for it. Doesn't matter what he says in interviews. Oh, I'm not thinking about the titles. I'm not thinking about the records. You are, mate. It's crossed your mind going, I'm not that far away. But obviously, he doesn't want that to overpower his. He doesn't want that to take control of him, where he thinks, oh, I'm going to win it regardless. Like, no, he's still got to work for it. He's still got to fight for it. He's got a good chance of winning it this year in 2020, which then will make him a 7-time world champion, matching the great Michael Schumacher. And even if he doesn't, he's got another 2 years to do it in, which I think he'll still be here for the new regs. But then again, if he feels like he can win another title, because I think he'll get to 7 definitely. Will he get to 8? Now that's a big question, because it just depends whether Mercedes can keep delivering a top car. Will Hamilton's pace fall away eventually? Like, will he stay at the top, or will he fall away? That's the question, because some sportsmen like stop performing at different ages. Like, like Kimi Raikkonen. I know he's not the best. He's not the best of drivers at the moment, but he's still going. He's still taking over, and he's all right. He's not like the slowest driver on the field by any stretch of the imagination. So will Hamilton be like that when he's 40-year-old? I doubt it. I think he'll be gone. So he'll probably see if he can have another title fight and go for 8 and raise the bar even further, because that'll be good on his side. Just saying, oh, I'm the record holder for titles. I don't think he'll be there for 10. I could be totally wrong with this, but I just can't say it. I think if he gets to 7, it gets to 8, beats the win record, beats the title record.
I mean, the thing is,
he'll then go into the sunset.
But the thing is, though, Jordan, it's only because you've said 2-year deal, obviously 21 and 22. If he wins this year, next year, and then obviously 2022, that makes 9. So then, like, if you're sitting on 9 world championships, it's just that's just the thing. I keep thinking with Lewis Hamilton, I'm like, if he's still got fire in him, then there's no stopping him, and he's with Mercedes as well.
That's like 2. That's 2 more than the record. Yeah. So Lewis has just set the bar, not once but twice as high. So like, who's going to get 9
Max
titles?
Verstappen. Obviously,
not Verstappen. Not Verstappen.
Obviously, Max Verstappen, Jordan. You don't even have to say that. Come on, man. What are you doing to this channel?
Oh yeah, sorry, Max. Sorry, Max is going to win 10 million titles.
He is, yeah. So I mean, but I mean, incredible one, man. Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much for that. And of course, thank you to everyone who sent in your incredible statements. 6 read out today. As you said though before, if it isn't read out today, then you possibly have a good chance of getting one in the next few weeks. Again, we will open it up on social media to look out for the next post for our next Agree or Disagree episode. We hope that you are enjoying the series. We definitely know that we are. So that is the end of our episode. Thank you very much for watching. We are getting very, very close now to the start of the actual Formula 1 season in Austria, behind closed doors until further notice, most likely to the end of the 2020 season, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. You know, no crowd, of course, just like football, it will stick out, but Formula 1, probably not. We're going to have on-track action, we're going to have David Croft screaming, we're going to have Ted Kravitz in his flip-flops, so does it really matter? Let us know in the comment section below. Yes, it does, but is it good to just have Formula 1 back? We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please check out our channel, please like and subscribe for more content as we go through this weird season, and of course going through the next few seasons. We have a lot more content coming your way as well, including more episodes of Agree or Disagree, our F1 debate show, Fry the Grid, which is heading into the final round in France. That is for the pretend round, the calendar for what was supposed to be the season, and then of course we kick off the proper one in Austria. Have a lot more content coming for your way, so obviously we hope that you enjoy that. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this episode. We've been the F1 Debate Show. Take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, and until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.